Welcome back, folks. This is Spruce and Studs, and today we have something a little bit different from what I typically do on the channel. What I'm going to be doing is a first impression of a Kickstarter campaign that I backed about a year ago. And that Kickstarter campaign was through Duncan Rhodes. So just to give you a little bit of history, Duncan Rhodes used to be an employee over at Games Workshop, and he was likely the most prominent, the most charismatic, as well as could be one of the most talented painters that Games Workshop employed. And at some point in time, he severed his ties with Games Workshop and decided to go out on his own and create his own painting line. And that's where he decided to team up with Transatlantic Games to see if he could actually create a line of paints that are better than what Games Workshop could possibly produce with their Citadel line. And for me, being a painter of miniatures, this was going to be an opportunity that I really wanted to jump upon to see exactly what these line of paints entail. However, this review is not going to actually be reviewing the paints themselves. However, we're just going to be looking at the Kickstarter campaign. So what I did was I was one of the early pledge backers, and I basically pledged $180 to get a line of 60 of their paints just to see what it's all about, to see if it's actually better than Citadel paints. Right now, let's just see what's inside of the Kickstarter box. All right, let's get to the unboxing of this Kickstarter campaign and see what is inside of this lovely box over here. Okay, so apparently we have a bunch of pamphlets over here before we unbox the bottom and see what is up with this stuff here. So a few disclaimers too. Okay, so you have the I Love Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy here. And these, I believe, are Kickstarter goals that ended up being met. And this is the PVC sticker of Sir Coates if $500,000 was backed. So definitely got this. And then here is another PVC sticker that was met at $600,000 for the Kickstarter. So here is a pamphlet with regards to Duncan Rhodes and his venture into starting his own paint line. And here is a pamphlet with regards to what kind of paints that are going to be provided over here. So with regards to all the colors, it appears that we get a shadow tone, a mid-tone, and a highlight, which is good. So your primary colors like red and blue have these shadow, mid-tone, and highlight. There are also other things such as washes and stuff, which is really cool. And there's 6 total washes at the bottom. So this paint conversion chart is really cool because you get to see over here that it will give you the equivalent paint, whether you're painting with a Citadel paint or an Army Painter paint, which is excellent. This is exactly what I need in order to actually start painting with this stuff. And here is the color wheel over here, which is, again, really nice to see all the different colors put into a wheel form here. All right, so let's lift up this cardboard and see what's underneath here. Ooh, all right. Obviously, up here we have a slew of 63 different types of paints. And looks like... And this was part of the stretch goal, which at $550,000, which allowed you to mix your own triad. So they actually do provide you with a bottle, the dropper, top, and then the cap. These little metal bits are called head-banging agitators, and they come in at $175,000 for the goal to be backed. This is obviously a bag of miniatures, which I will open in a little bit. But this is all part of the stretch goals. Same thing with Sir Coates over here, part of a stretch goal, and then over here. So obviously the star of the show are these paints, and I just want to show them to you. And these paints are nicely packaged, which is super professional. There was obviously no rolling whatsoever because they are contained in these crates. And what's also nice is that they ordered them by the colors. So for example, up here you have the whole entire purple range. So you've got the Amethyst Rain, which is the darkest purple. and then a mid-tone purple, which is a sorcerer's cloak, and then finally is the light purple tone called runic purple, which is supposed to give the highlights. And the really nice thing is I love these dropper bottles. Dropper bottles give you a lot more control over the paint when you're trying to put it on your palette. So there are a total of 63 paints here. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the other paints. So you have a spirit medium, which probably allows you to turn one of these colors into a wash, I'm going to presume. All right, one of these paints, I'm not too sure which one. Maybe it's the Vampire Thirst one, was a 600,666 sludge goal. And this is the equivalent of pretty much a Blood for the Blood God type of paint if you're using Citadel. I think it's this one. Then here are the other washes, a Flesh Wash and an Orc Wash. Then finally, a Battle Mud Wash and a Dark non-oil type wash. So that is the entire paint line for Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy. Let's take a look at the stretch goals for the Kickstarter campaign. And these metal miniatures were all part of the Kickstarter campaign, so let's see what's inside over here. So the first mini we have over here is Baron von Evil, and he was a $200,000 stretch goal. So you can see a flaming skull type of figure over here. And then you see cool effects with the chest plate over here that is also of a screaming skull. And he's got some nice fur texture over here. So this is super cool. And next is the 250,000 stretch goal, where we have Sir Coates with an alternate pose. Next you have a $275,000 stretch goal. Name is Princess Sophia. She is a quote-unquote feisty princess and only daughter of the king of the realm. So you have a very large sword here, and then her screaming, obviously, into battle. At $350,000 is a Revna mini, and she is the most evil sorceress in all the realm and Baron von Evil's second in command. And the next one we have is a Burn mini at $400,000. He's the loyal man-at-arms and Sir Coates' most trusted friend and traveling companion. And off the side over here is a dog, which I didn't actually see on the Kickstarter campaign. And the dog is obviously assembled like this. And I'm going to be assuming that this is probably a loyal and trusty companion for Sir Coates. All right, let's take a look at what's inside of bag number 2. So over here is Sir Coates, which is the mascot of the whole entire Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy, and this was a stretch goal that was met at $125,000. So you have obviously Sir Coates over here with his weapon of destruction, i.e. the paintbrush. Down over here are 2 pirate bases, and this was met at $150,000 stretch goal. We have our third and final bag for stretch goals, and let's see what's inside of these things here. All right, the first stretch goal was at $60,000, and this was a Duncan and Rog chibi minis, which is cool. So you have Duncan over here with his characteristic grin and smirk, wielding his favorite weapon of destruction, which is the paintbrush. And then you have Rog over here. The next stretch goal was met at $70,000, which was a cobblestone base, which is really cool that you can put this on any other tabletop wargaming. And then $80,000 was a sci-fi base here. And then $90,000 stretch goal was a Skulls of Your Enemies base. And then next you have the $100,000 stretch goal, which is sci-fi base number 2. And again, over off to the side over here is probably the $175,000 stretch goal, which is the Headbanger Agitators, so that you can help distribute the paint better when you're shaking it. So this is a cool touch that I really appreciate from Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy. And so that is the show and tell portion of this, and I'll wrap it up with my final thoughts. All right, folks, now you have seen exactly what's inside of the Kickstarter box. And the First thing I'll say is I've been through a lot of Kickstarters. All of them were funded. However, a few of them never came to fruition. They kept stringing people along saying that the goals were here, this is where we were at, but never anything really materialized out of it. So sometimes, again, when you're doing these Kickstarter campaigns, you get literally fucked out of your money, and that's happened to me a few times. But there was something about Duncan Rhodes that I could trust because he is a very large figure in the painting community, and I know that he has his reputation on the line. So I then knew that he was going to push this all the way up until the end. And I'll have to say, I am very, very impressed with the packaging of the Kickstarter. You saw how those paints were neatly organized in a gigantic tray, and then each and every single one of those dropper bottles were put into those individual trays, which told me that there was planning and there was debate on what was the best method to ship these things out was. And then the thing that most impressed me was each and every single one of the Kickstarter stretch goals was met and was actually packaged inside of the Kickstarter box. Again, I've experienced many a time where they will say that they will fulfill these stretch goals, and in the end, they probably fulfill 2/3 of it or 75% of it. There's always something that gets screwed up or missing. So props to Transatlantic Games and to Duncan Rhodes for actually putting everything that they said that they were going to put on the Kickstarter campaign into the box. I was missing absolutely nothing whatsoever. Obviously, Duncan Rhodes, I don't know him per se, but just by looking at his painting techniques, you know the man is going to be looking at everything in meticulous detail. And I'm probably sure that because of that meticulous detail, that translated into the 100% completeness of the Kickstarter box. So this is Sprues and Studs. I hope you enjoyed this little review video on Transatlantic Games and their lines of paint. Please stay tuned for more videos that's going to come along, especially when I start reviewing the paints themselves and how they possibly flow or how they mix with other paints compared to, let's just say, the Big Army painter as well as Citadel paints. So that being said, I'll see you all in the next one.